as we're evolving it into probably something that's going to be more stimulating and more arousing than any experience you could have with a human being, which I think is probably on the way as we get to know the brain better and we're more in touch with technology. What does that mean? Why would you want to have sex with another person other than to create a child if you could have a much better experience and a much more exciting and what might feel even rewarding experience with a machine? That is a big question.
That's what I got out of this discussion today, is I had no idea how prudish I am. I mean, all this talk about the simulated smells and bodies and touches, and then I'm going, geez, I have to compete with a computer. I don't like it. I don't like that feeling. It just feels like competition. It feels like men are just going to get very jaded. Well, women too, but it just predominantly.
I think it's a misperception to see this as a men's issue. There is a good percentage of women, an increasing number of women are looking at pornography. We see increasing numbers of women I'm seeing for the first time coming into treatment for problems with pornography and intimacy disorders and sexual disorders. And this is not a male, it is a male-dominated issue, but it is not solely a male issue. I think it's really important.
I don't think so. I just meant that because I'm dating men, I just don't want them jaded because they see all this stuff and these perfect bodies and, retouched images, and it just... I just didn't realize I felt like this until after this discussion.
I've long said that any person who prefers the two-dimensional to an actual three-dimensional person doesn't deserve a relationship, isn't ready for one. I think the overuse of pornography is a symptom of intimacy disorder, not a cause of it, because it's easier to interact with a picture that does not need anything from me or require me to change anything about myself. So I don't want a relationship. I'll have a semi-relationship with an image. So people will say, Nina, what's next for pornography? It's like, well, they've stuck everything they can stick everywhere they can stick it. There's no more things to stick anywhere. And each one has been done a gazillion times. It's like, fine. But what is bottomless, endless, fathomless are feelings and emotions. And as deep as we dare to go, there's always more to go. There's always more intimacy to be had. There's always more feelings to be felt. There's always more emotions to be sharing if we dare to actually face ourselves and see you as a real human being and have that journey. So feeling, in the end, it is, there's 5 behaviors. There's hugging and kissing, sucking, intercourse, and masturbation. But what is endless and endless and endless are feelings and emotions and fantasies if I dare to open myself up to you and see you, and you dare to open up to me and let me see you and have that conversation, because the behaviors, there's only a limit to what you can do, but there's never a limit to what you can feel and share if we are willing.
I think the problem, though, that is already presenting itself is that those who profit from the sale of intensely pleasurable sexual experiences are not interested in us having intimacy. In fact, if you look at some of the advertisements for some of the hookup sites, they're all about, look how fat and lazy and ugly and unattractive your spouse is, and you've been married for a year or two. Don't tolerate that or grow within it or figure out how to work with you. Move on and find somebody else. And that is the message that those who profit from the industry are giving us, which doesn't really support all the things that you're absolutely right that we need to do, which is build intimacy and build relationship.
But hopefully eventually I get tired of that and realize, wow, this is a treadmill to nowhere, and I no longer want that, and now I want, for lack of a better word, the real thing. Each person, I think, has a different level of toleration for isolation, emotional isolation versus emotional engagement. And again, I think overuse of pornographic materials is a symptom and not a cause.
I think we have an audience question.
Hi. So as you're saying, in this digital age, we've never had so much access to sex, and communication about sex has never been so open. And so, and yet this sexual shame still persists. And so, what do you find are the biggest contributors to that, and how do we address that?
Our heritage as being founded by Puritans, and all of our laws basically assuming that sex is something men do to women, and that women are somehow still essentially more pure, and men have no emotional needs and women have no sexual needs. It goes back to Aristotle. The feelings and spirit are holy and clean, and the body and its desires are base and dirty, and the two always have to be at odds with each other. So it's just many thousands of year cultural problem, and so it's not going to be addressed in a generation or two. So there is the cultural attitudes about sexuality, and then human need. A really good book is Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan, R-Y-A-N, addresses this really well. Sex at dawn, like the time of day.
I think it predates, it goes before a lot of religions. I think religions came after. I think it stems with this really subconscious fear of survival. And I think, back in the day, you look at even religion and what that kind of, what are the things that are wrong? Homosexuality is wrong. Why? Well, it doesn't result in procreation. Masturbation is wrong because it doesn't result in procreation. Sex with the dead is wrong. Okay, well, that's pretty obvious, but because it doesn't involve procreation. In fact, all the ideas of demon and demon rites and satanic rituals were masturbation, necrophilia, sodomy. And I think that was the reaction to religion, but religion's goal in many respects was a way to continue the tribes, and to procreate the tribes. Now, today, look at it today, we don't need it. I mean, we have a lot of people. So, masturbate all you want, have sex with robots. It doesn't serve that original purpose anymore. However, the religious aspects of it still cling. And beyond that, in my studies of this, there's this other fear. We are afraid of pleasure. We love pleasure, but we're afraid of it. It's this idea of where can the mind take us? Because think about this, and this is why I think masturbation is more fearful than even sex, because sex, you're sharing with a person, they're witness to what you're doing. But when you're masturbating, you could be thinking about anything. Someone could be thinking about having sex with a little boy, someone could be thinking about sex with your wife or your husband, and we can't control that. The power of what you want to do in your mind is whatever you want to do. And I think we're afraid of our own power.
Well, I'm all for complete mental freedom. Obviously, a thought's a thought, and it's not an action. So it's important, especially within monogamy, that we give our partners mental freedom to go where they need to go because they're not going outside the relationship physically. And so I give my partner mental privacy, and he gives me the same, and yet we still are able to connect emotionally in real time because we have that respect for each other's areas of privacy. And religion's always been there to funnel sexual behavior, proper partner, proper time, proper reason for being engaging in sex. And that it's been religion's really main focus is on how to channel that energy because it's a universal energy. But I think people say, homosexuality is wrong because it doesn't result in children, but actually the sharing of pleasure in and of itself is a social good. And so I think, and every mammal has shown some kind of homosexual behavior, even in the wild. And so there is all sex need not be procreative. It can also be social building and social glue. We just have lost track of that.
I did a TV show. I did 2 reality shows. It was an excellent point. One was about prescription painkiller addiction, and there was a lot of people that were stuck on crack and speed, and that show was very well received. We had no problem with the media. They talked all about the drug addiction, and no one was shamed. Everyone looked me in the eye. A year later, I did another show, which was